Okay, so it's 10:01 my time, so I'm going to get started just because I want to respect your time, and we have a lot to go through. So if at any point in time you have questions, I'll be monitoring the chat box. And again, this is going to be recorded, and I will give you all I'm going to send recordings of both the Thursday one and this one. I realized I was trying to be efficient by having just one sign up page for both, but then I realized, wait, that wasn't actually efficient because then I had to email everyone twice. So thank you all for your patience. So, okay, let me make sure everyone's in the right place. So you're in the right place if you yourself maybe have arthritis pain and you have some difficulty with everyday tasks, or maybe you feel overwhelmed or you need more support, or like too many people, in my opinion, you are left on your own to figure out how to actually manage your condition on the day-to-day. Or you maybe have a similar condition, maybe not technically a form of arthritis, but something else of a chronic illness nature, and you just want to learn how to manage it better, or you are maybe a healthcare worker who wants to learn how to serve your patients better. So if those are for you, you're in the right place, if those apply to you. So a quick overview of what you're going to learn today. I'm going to give a quick introduction to myself, although it sounds like a lot of you have already connected with me on social media, which is amazing. And then I'm going to give you kind of the theory behind life hacks, because life hacks are really fun to talk about, but it's kind of like giving a man a fish versus like teaching a man how to fish. So I'm going to explain the theory behind them so that you can kind of understand how to make up your own life hacks in your own life. And then we're going to actually go through a day in the life. So what? Why do we care about life hacks when you have arthritis? So they can help you prevent future pain and joint strain, and they can reduce the existing pain that you have. Plus, it gives you a sense of control. And I know for many of you who have rheumatoid arthritis or similar, one of the hardest things to cope with is the unpredictable nature, right? Sometimes it feels like, why did I do the same thing yesterday and today, but I feel worse today than yesterday? I don't get it. But so there's a lot that you can't control about it, but there are things that you can control, such as how do you approach your everyday tasks. So also, you want to be able to improve your quality of life, I'm assuming. It's kind of a universal human thing. Improve your confidence, and again, your ability to actually do things in your life, whether that's cooking or eating or anything that's important to you. I guess right now I'm thinking about food. But the ultimate goal, so that you can actually live a life that you really love, and despite your arthritis. So I think, well, I shouldn't go on too many soapboxes, but one of my soapboxes I like to go on is that a lot of times we focus so much on like making the pain go away, or maybe trying to find a way to like cure or heal the disease, when really there potentially A, might not be a way to cure or heal it for everyone, and B, there's ways to actually maximize your quality of life, and they don't require you to actually get rid of the disease. So that's kind of where I come from in my occupational therapy perspective, is really about like, how can we work around this or improve it so that your quality of life is better on a practical level. So, okay, a little bit about me. Yeah, I already jumped ahead that I'm an occupational therapist. What even is that? So first of all, yeah, you already let me know where you're from. Thank you for that. And yeah, I got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis when I was 21. So I'm 39 now. So I've had it for, I guess now 18 years. I always say 17 years. I got my master's in occupational therapy 7 years ago, and I'm also a teacher at a local occupational therapy assistant program for adults. And I am a mom of a 6-year-old, and I founded Arthritis Life. And I'm going to explain a little bit more why I did. But first of all, what is occupational therapy? Because a lot of people confuse it with physical therapy, but we actually have pretty different mental approaches to things. So occupational therapists focus on giving you the tools, the physical and metaphorical tools, so that you can reach your goals. So whether that's a physical tool, in this case, the T-Rex doesn't have any tools, he wants the apple, and he can't get it. And then, wait a minute, yay, occupational therapy comes in and gives them the tools, the physical tools in this case, to get it. Now, I should have had a third one in here, because what we also do sometimes is if we can't change the person's maybe internal abilities, or we don't have a physical tool to give them, we can also change the environment. So in that case, in this example, it would be like giving a big step stool for the dinosaur so that he could get up and get the apple with his existing conditions. So that's what we really, really focus on. It's a very practical field. And we also, the difference between us and physical therapists is that we're trained to directly treat mental health conditions, and physical therapists are not. So that's really informs my perspective. So really quick, again, I'm already behind schedule because I just love talking about this. So what I'm talking about today, the life hacks, fits really perfectly into the Rheumatoid Arthritis Roadmap, which is a comprehensive online education and support program I developed to help people with arthritis learn how to actually live their life with it, because I noticed that they were often just like given a 20-minute appointment and then sent on their own. And that's just it's a really complicated disease to have to figure out on your own. And as an occupational therapist, I have the tools to teach you how to manage your physical symptoms, your emotional life, stress, coping. That's where the mental health comes in. And then your social life. So managing important relationships, explaining like how can you have a chronic illness when you don't even quote unquote look sick. So I also cover the basics of like how to be a patient, how to navigate the system and be an advocate and be the CEO of your health team. So today the life hacks are more along the physical lines, but I always approach things from what I call what is called a biopsychosocial framework, which means you think about what's going on in the body, that's the bio, and the psycho, what's in the mind, and the social is what's in the world, what's in that person's environment. Okay, so I'm also going to talk about a lot of specific products, and if you ever want to look them up, I'll put this link in here actually. They're, Cheryl Faves, there we go. They're on my website, so I do have like an Amazon affiliate account, but literally it's like I've made $2 on it. So it's not like my motivation is not financial. It's more, I have links on my website where you can purchase things, and it just makes it more convenient for you, so you can just click a button rather than having to like look everything up. So that's where my favorite products are. And I only ever recommend things that I personally use and find helpful. Okay, last thing is a disclaimer. So medical disclaimer, this is just general education. This is what I'm going to say is not really a substitute for specific recommendations or treatments from your doctor or medical team, including your occupational therapist. So I see a few more people have joined us. If you don't mind letting me know where you're logging in from, that would be awesome, because I just like to know who I'm talking to. Okay, we're going to cover very, very briefly the basics behind life hacks for arthritis, because we have to understand, okay, first of all, what does arthritis mean? Arthritis simply means joint inflammation. So the joint is that little space between the two bones, and inflammation is basically what itis means. Hi from Ireland and Toronto, awesome. So the thing is, it's kind of like you have to know what the root cause is, right? You can have a stomach ache that is maybe from stomach cancer, or you can have a stomach ache from just eating too much for breakfast. And if you don't know what the root cause is, you're not going to be able to figure out what the solution is. So the same with arthritis. Arthritis is not technically a medical condition, just the word arthritis. Arthritis is a symptom that many different conditions have as one of their symptoms, in the same way that a stomach ache is a symptom of a lot of different things. So over 100 different diseases can cause arthritis. Some of them have arthritis in the name and some of them don't. So the autoimmune forms, which is what I have, rheumatoid, or autoinflammatory forms, which are similar, they're things like rheumatoid, ankylosing spondylitis or axial spondylitis, psoriatic arthritis, lupus, many other conditions. Osteoarthritis is the more prevalent one, which is associated with aging, and it's the wear and tear over time arthritis. So it's really important long-term to kind of understand the root cause of your arthritis. But in the terms of the life hacks, some of the same life hacks can apply. So they're not like mutually exclusive, like only if you have RA versus only if you have what a lot of people call OA, which is osteoarthritis. But I just wanted to help you understand that background. Another thing is that, so with osteoarthritis, the symptoms are located like just in the joint, whereas with the autoimmune and inflammatory forms like rheumatoid, the symptoms are across your whole body, because it's your immune system attacking different parts of your body, including it happens to attack your joints. So the main other symptoms would be like fatigue, fevers, sweating, poor appetite, weight loss, dry eyes, and all these other things I mentioned here. You don't need me to read them to you necessarily. So the theory behind a lot of life hacks is joint protection. And joint protection simply means changing how you approach tasks so that you don't put unnecessary strain on your joints. So just so you know, a little bit of a buy-in here that, patients who understand joint protection actually have better functional abilities or ability to just do stuff in your life. And it also can improve your pain levels and, again, your sense of self-efficacy or control over your disease. So that's why I like them. They're also just helpful. So just a quick pop quiz, if you don't mind letting me know in the chat box. Off the top of your head, which one do you think is better to protect your thumbs? Holding a baby in this way, where you kind of put your thumbs under their armpits. It's kind of the way that we tend to want to think about holding babies, or this way, where you're stabilizing the baby on your, on your core. Yeah, you guys got it. So yeah, number 2, and those with arthritis, it's like they say pain is a teacher, right? Pain is a good teacher. So in the sense that, like, when you feel pain, if you do something a certain way, it like reminds you not to do it that way. So if you have a lot of thumb pain, you would feel it immediately when doing this. However, and as an occupational therapist, again, I see this in the very big picture, because it's also like, it's not just a physical act, right? This is my baby, by the way. He's 6 now. Like it's an emotional experience too, right? And you're maybe focused on the bonding with your child at that time. You're not necessarily thinking, I'm going to approach this task in the way that helps my joints the most. Like even me as an occupational therapist, this is a picture. I wasn't trying to demonstrate it. This is just a picture my husband took, so, no one's perfect. I'm not going to say I'm teaching you this because I figured it all out and I'm perfect at doing life hacks all the time. No, but, we're all only human, but definitely over time, even people without, an autoimmune disease or a chronic illness or form of arthritis actually are prone to something called mommy thumb, which is basically it results from doing this exact position. So, the way that we interact with the world affects our physical body. Hopefully that's kind of obvious, but yeah, too much stress on the tiny joints. And so one of the main principles of joint protection for the small joints in your hands is to use the large muscles and larger joints to stabilize versus the tiny small ones in your hands. So in layman's terms, I like to think about it as 2 main strategies. You can either change how you interact with the objects you already have in your world, or change the items that you use so your joints won't be as stressed. So I'm going to give you examples of that throughout this course. So, I'm going to give them to you right now. Haha. So if you're having a mug with a handle, you can change how you interact with that same mug, right? You can choose to distribute the force across 2 hands versus 1. That way, even though your hands are stabilizing the mug, you're actually distributing the force across 2 versus 1, which means you're having less strain on your tiny little hand joints. Like less strain per joint versus, holding it with 1 hand and holding it this way. That is not good for multiple reasons. One of them is another joint protection principle for rheumatoid arthritis is that you want to avoid positions that cause what's called ulnar drift. That's something that if rheumatoid arthritis is not controlled with medication or lifestyle factors, it progresses into a deformity in your hands where you end up, your knuckles start drifting towards your pinky side. That's the ulnar side. So you want to avoid positions that put that pressure down towards your pinky. Interestingly, we're going to talk about this with the phone. Look at the phone. That's exactly not a good position. So that's why I suggest workarounds for that. Stay tuned for that. You can also just change the item you use. So in the case of opening cans, instead of using like a manual can opener, you could use an electric one. You can use a different knife. You could use, I don't really have an example of like a different mug, although there are some that people have come up with because people come up with solutions for everything these days. So there are a lot of joint protection principles, and those again are like the teaching a man to fish, and I cover a lot of them in the rheumatoid arthritis roadmap course. But for now, I know you guys are here to learn like the life hacks. Let's go through a day in the life. So a lot of slides. I think I broke the PowerPoint rule. You're supposed to only have 7 bullets per slide. So let's talk about our morning routine. So one of the hallmark symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis is morning stiffness. So if you just have stiffness without like hot, pink, tender inflammation, heat can be really, really helpful. So a lot of people just figure this out on their own. But you know, you maybe take a hot shower, use a hot pack that can really help loosen up your stiff joints. And cold is going to be better for hot, inflamed joints from rheumatoid arthritis. Now for showering, you could use long handle things. I have an example of a long handle lotion applicator, but they have them for your hair too. This is good for people who have a shoulder issue. So maybe your shoulder is affected by your arthritis. You can't quite move your shoulder all the way around in the range of motion required, or your hands aren't strong enough, or otherwise it's too painful for you to scrub your hair yourself. You could buy or make on your own one of these long handled hair scrubbers, okay? We also have, in general, for pumps and bottles, whether it's going to be a shampoo bottle or a lotion, I really recommend pumps for a lot of people who have hand pain versus squeeze bottles, especially if it's in your thumb. See, if I squeeze that really hurts the base of my thumb joint, versus a pump bottle allows you to actually, believe it or not, you're using the big muscles and joints in like your shoulder and even your back if you pound down on that. So I can totally avoid my thumb. Oops, there we go. Trying to make it easier for you guys to see. And another workaround would be something like simply using bathing wipes. So instead of having to actually go into the shower, you can use wipes. For eye drops, I have a couple gadgets that I've used. And the principle behind these is that it's kind of like a seesaw, right? When you have like a seesaw and you sit towards the middle of the seesaw, you have to push harder down to get it to go, right? Versus if you sit on the end of the seesaw, then you don't have to push down very hard. And the same way, what this does, it has this little thing sticking out that grips onto the bottle, and it makes it so you have a longer, quote unquote, lever arm. Long story short, you don't have to apply as much force to squeeze the bottle. And that's really important for rheumatoid arthritis for a lot of people, because rheumatoid arthritis, one of the symptoms can be dry eyes, or it could be a side effect of the medication. So those are some of the gadgets that I have used. Oops, next slide. There we go. Also, there are toileting gadgets, believe it or not. So you can, if you're having a hard time reaching behind you, again, it's more for the shoulder, elbow issues, or even just the dexterity and the grip strength for your hands, you can use one of these wiping aids, which this is a store-bought one in the picture, but and so then you don't have to twist quite as far behind you as an actual doing it the typical way. However, you can also make your own. Tiffany Christine, who's an occupational therapist, also on TikTok, she had a great video where she used just tongs. Now, tongs are going to require a certain degree of hand strength, so keep that in mind. But she just used tongs and put the toilet paper at the end. And then for lotion, again, using the pump bottles versus squeeze, and you can use the long-handled lotion applicator. So you put the lotion on, and then you can just get it onto your back or whatever part of your body you're having difficulty reaching, which is kind of fun. I'm just laughing at my picture. For things like grooming, like doing your hair, there's a lot of quick workarounds, like letting your hair air dry so that you're not having to spend as long, right? Drying it. That's one of those, like, change how you approach the task. You might still use the same hair dryer, the same brush, but you're changing your approach to it. You also can change the stuff that you're using by getting a wider grip hairbrush, or even a dryer brush, which is like a 2-in-1. It's a brush and a dryer, which is a lot of people with arthritis have contacted me and told me, oh, I really love my dryer brush. So I don't love it as much, but it might just be that I'm not in the habit yet. So you can also use this for jewelry. You can use this clasp aid. So this is designed for anyone, because it's a hard thing to get a bracelet on, whether you have arthritis or not. Oh, sorry. I just saw a question. Hi, Nina. Yes, there is a link to these products. So, and I'm going to be sending it to you guys all in a follow-up email. But here is the website again, the bit.ly/CherylFaves. It has links to most of these. If you see any that I forgot, let me know and I will add them. For nail clippers, that's what can be a hard one, right? Because you really have to pinch. So you could purchase like an easy grip one. However, you can also pretty easily, make your own by, you literally can take regular nail clippers and super glue them onto just any flat surface, like a literally piece of wood or like a plate. And then that way, the bottom part of the clipper stays static. And then you can use a large motor movement on your other hand, and press down so you're not having to pinch with your thumb. You're using those larger muscles. So if that doesn't make sense, I can send a picture. I forgot to include a picture of that in here, but it's really cool. Okay, getting dressed. A lot of you asked me about this after I did a funny video of some of these life hacks. So a sock aid was actually initially designed for people who had a hard time bending from like hip surgery or other hip pain issues. Those of you who have had a hip replacement might already have been introduced to the sock aid, but they can also be really helpful. Yeah, if you're having hip pain just from arthritis, even without a hip replacement surgery, or knee pain, it does require, so you put the sock on the aid first, and that requires some grip strength to do. So it's not, if your only issue is your fingers, then it's not the right thing for you. But if your issue is bending down and bending your knee, then it could potentially help you. A shoehorn, it prevents you from having to put your finger in the back of your shoe as you're putting it on. And it's like a long handle thing as well. And then I use a lot of workarounds. Let me know in the chat box if you guys use workarounds for clothing too. So I just do a lot of like loose clothing without zippers. It doesn't have difficult fasteners, and slip-on shoes like this picture. That can be a huge thing. Oh, did I miss the bra one? Oh, here we go. Sorry, I was gonna say, I skipped forward too fast. So a button hook is a classic occupational therapy recommended object that allows you to put on and take off the buttons, again, bypassing your tiny little finger joints that might be sore or tender from arthritis, and you just have to hold on to the button aid and then helps you to put your button on and take it off. So that's really helpful. But the workaround would simply be like choosing clothing items with larger, looser buttons. So one of my favorite rain jackets, for example, living in Seattle, I have to have a lot of rain gear. It has huge buttons that are really loose, really easy to put in and out. So also for zippers, it's interesting. A lot of zippers come with like what's called a zipper pull already on them. But that also allows it to be easier for you to get the zipper up and down, because again, it requires a lot of pinch strength to use the zipper in a typical way. So you can tie just a hairband around it, and that way you can use your larger joints instead of your tiny little gripping joints. So let me know if that makes sense or doesn't make sense. And then for bras, I was like, where's the bra part? So bras are hard for a lot of people. Like with anything else, you kind of want to experiment in person and figure out if you can get one that clasps easier for you. A lot of people choose like a sports bra style or like a shelf tank top. Like I personally, because I'm small chested, to be totally honest, I just don't wear a bra a lot of the times. And that's a great workaround for me, but it doesn't work for everyone because it's not comfortable for them if you have a larger chest. So another possibility is securing the clasp before you put it on so that you kind of have it in front of you and it's easier versus having to kind of get into awkward angles to get your bra on. So that's one of the harder things. I'm still waiting for a better solution for that. So for work and technology, so I know a lot of you probably already have heard this, ergonomics 101 is like 90-90-90 angle. But if you haven't heard it, it's okay. No, 90-90 means you want a 90-degree angle between your core and your legs, like your core and your thighs. So that's one 90-degree angle. And then 90-degree angle between your thigh and your knees, or thigh and your shins, sorry. And then the other one is, between your shin and your foot. So that is, and then you want to be looking straight ahead of your computer. You don't want to have to be cranking your neck up or bending it down because that puts a lot of stress on your neck. And you also don't want to crunch your elbows up. That's something I see a lot, especially with children that are placed at like desks that are way too high for them. They end up getting in these really bad postural habits because they're like crunched their shoulders up. So you want your shoulders to be relaxed and have that 90-degree angle also with your upper arm to your forearm. So your kind of shoulder to elbow angle and then elbow to, so like I said, okay, this one isn't really one of the angles people talk about, but I'm saying that because sometimes I go on my tippy toes. But oops, go back. So that's 90, 90, 90. And then for phones, so you want to avoid that, again, ulnar drift or pinky drift position of holding your phone. So I have like a little mini tripod that I use for my phone. It's handy for doing TikTok videos and other videos too, but that way I can stabilize this on the table and then I could just use a finger to scroll around. You also want to get like an ergonomic keyboard because again, that same pinky drift issue, a lot of keyboards that are flat, you actually end up pushing your pinkies out to the side just to maneuver on the keyboard. So the ones that are more ergonomic don't have that angle. So that's good. And also you can of course use the cute little hand warmers. Oops, I already moved them. The little hand warmers from this picture. Now these are the child size. I got the adult size too. They're in the mail because those are really tight and they're actually not available anymore, but the adult size are available and they're not pink, sadly. They're tan and white, but they're really, really cute. They're supposed to look like pieces of toast. I'm curious if any of you have ever used assistive touch or other assistive technology on your phones. So I use that because scrolling can be hard on your what's called MCP joints, which is a fancy name, metacarpophalangeal. It's your knuckles, basically. Scrolling can be hard on your knuckles, and those are the joints that tend to be affected by rheumatoid arthritis. So if you use assistive touch, it allows you to enter in just a touch as a scroll, and it's really, really helpful. I also use speech to text or voice dictation quite a bit, so that avoids typing altogether. And when I did it on Thursday, some people were saying, oh yeah, I use, Dragon Naturally Speaking or other technologies as well for speech to text. So, oh yeah, and Nina's saying she has a cool split curve keyboard and had an ergonomic assessment yesterday and looking towards a one-handed keyboard. Do you recommend a one-handed keyboard? First of all, if you had a personalized assessment for you, I definitely would go with what they said because without seeing you in person, I can't do like an individualized assessment. But a one-handed keyboard, if you have one hand that is more effective than the other, that can be a great solution. And just know in the United States, you are basically you have the right to ask for formal accommodations under ADA, which is the Americans with Disabilities Act. So you can have things like a later start time if you have a lot of morning stiffness, or rest breaks throughout the day to manage your energy due to fatigue. And you can talk to human resources about that. Oh, good. So Nina found one on her own. The ergonomic person didn't know about them. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. My worry with I would need to look at it, but yes, sometimes you wouldn't want anything that would make you really have to like move your fingers in dramatic angles. That's probably not a sentence you ever thought you would hear. Dramatic angles. Handwriting was something that a few people asked about. So you can get alternate pens or pencils. So that's kind of like that change the stuff strategy, change the stuff that you're using versus change how you interact. So you can get something like a pen again, which is actually really good to protect your thumb and your knuckles, keeps them in a nice position. Or you can use foam tubing. So foam tubing is great in general to create wide handles out of any object that you have. So it looks like this. You can put it around your fork or your spoon for eating, or you can put it around pens or pencils. This is my son's Star Wars pencil. And so that makes it so you don't have to grip as tightly to keep the pencil stabilized. You could grip more loosely and it's more comfortable for arthritis. So that's kind of a nice universal thing. You could put a built-up handle. People call it a built-up handle in OT and PT for whatever reason, but you can put it on for your eye makeup, eyeliner pencil. You can put it around all sorts of things. Okay, people can put them around even like styluses. Keeps having a little delay. So for cleaning, things like really simple hacks would be like soaking your dishes first if you have to clean them by hand. That way you don't have to scrub as hard, right? And hopefully, like, a lot of people end up becoming really good problem solvers over time. But at the same time, sometimes we just get into simple little habits by default and we don't even realize that we're like hurting our joints by doing those. So that's why I'm covering everything just in case you hadn't thought about it. And getting a scrubber with a handle versus a regular like rectangular sponge is really helpful, because when you're using the rectangular sponge, your knuckles tend to get a lot of the brunt of the force versus holding a long handle scrubber. So yeah, and speaking of long handle, so there's regular handle ones like that you use for dishes, but then there's super long handle ones that are designed for like bathtubs and cleaning like high up surfaces like the ceiling. Those are super, super handy for arthritis. They help you avoid like awkward bending angles, and they allow you to not have to use as much force to get the scrubbing action. And then of course, using workarounds is a great way to avoid the task, so to help preserve your joints. So you could do things like delegating or chunking the task out. In the August group of the Rheumatoid Arthritis Roadmap program, one of the attendees had a really great idea. She said, what she does is she has certain days of the week that she does different cleaning tasks. Before, she used to do them all like on the weekend. And so, but then she said that was too much strain on her body. So now it's like, okay, Mondays are floors, Tuesdays are counters, Wednesdays are bathrooms, Thursdays are whatever. I can't even remember what else it is. So, bedrooms or something, or, vacuuming versus mopping. So distributing the tasks throughout the week is a great way to conserve your energy. Okay, so now we're going to move on to meal prep in the kitchen. This is a lot of people's favorite one to talk about. Again, let me know in the comments any of the ones that you've already tried. But the handle knife, which you might have seen in my video, is a great way to protect your thumb. Now, it does require enough strength to grip it, but I really prefer this one. It also avoids that angle of pressure to your knuckle joints, basically. Also, there's rocker knives that go back and forth. Again, they allow you to use those bigger joints versus the tiny joints in your fingers. Using wide grip utensils, again, using this kind of built up handle idea. And of course, you can use these fun opening aids, like a long handled opener, like, oh, I'm just pointed. I'm like, you can't see what I'm pointing to. The long handled opener there, or something like the Robo Twist. And I think for time's sake, I'm not going to show an actual demo. What this is it's literally a one-touch electronic opener. So you put the can here, like the jar, like it's a jar of, you have, Kat has a Robo Twist. Yeah, you put like a jar of, strawberry jam. And then you just press the button and it actually goes right around it and twists it off. It isn't universal for like every single possible size, but it definitely helps. So that's really a way to bypass all the pressure on your joints except for that initial pressing of the button. You can also use any sort of like grippy material like Dyson or any rubbery material is really going to be helpful for twisting off if you do have to twist it yourself. That's what I'm doing in this picture with my handy Arthritis Foundation a grippy jar gripper. I got that for free at one of their events. By the way, Arthritis Foundation in the US is a great source of information for some of this stuff too. I mean, you can also use just a regular electronic like can opener. I think a lot of us, again, kind of think of these things on our own, but you can also just buy pre-cut items. And again, that works for me because I'm not like a gourmet chef. Like I love these pre-cut, freeze-dried onion, garlic, and basil because it's like, oh, I don't have to sit there and like get it takes away all these steps, right, of peeling and cutting. But, some of you are like, no, it doesn't, you might think, okay, that doesn't taste the same. I don't want that. And that's totally valid too. So just, know that these exist. And again, the US, it's in most cities, you have the option of like grocery home delivery, or even like doing pickup at the grocery store so that they've already done all those steps of like picking the items out, putting them in the cart, taking them out again to get it scanned, putting them back in the bag, taking them out of the bag to the car. That eliminates all those steps, right? And has it just delivered to your door or into your car. In the kitchen, I end up using scissors a lot, and I have these really great easy action. Oh, I forgot where I put them because I'm always moving them around and using them. But they're scissors where instead of having two circular openings, you have a flat part on the top and then a circle down here. And I'm very excited about them in this picture. I'm like, what is this? And they're so handy because again, it really bypasses that strain on your thumb. And these are actually designed for people to do like fabric projects, but I use them for everything. And in some general principles, again, you want to distribute the force across multiple joints, use 2 hands rather than 1, and whole arm movements, and putting heavier items into lighter containers. So, sometimes that might involve, like if you get the Costco size or a large size of something, putting it in smaller containers so that you don't have to continuously lift and move something heavy. That's going to help your joints. Fatigue is one of the least appreciated symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't even know my fatigue was related to my rheumatoid arthritis until I went to occupational therapy school. I had no idea. I thought, oh, I'm just tired, from whatever. And then I was like, oh, it's because it's an autoimmune disease and it's like affecting my whole body, not just my joints. Okay, that makes sense. But anyway, so if you didn't know that already, don't feel badly about it. But, fatigue can disrupt your ability to, do the things you want to do in your life. This is a picture of me at the American College of Rheumatology conference last year. You can see my little lanyard there. But, I had to just lay down on a random couch at the conference center and take a little rest in the middle of it just to get through the day. So taking rest breaks, pacing yourself is great. Even a quick example would be like putting a shower chair in your shower so you can rest even in the middle of a shower. That can be really handy because heat is a good thing for some people with rheumatoid arthritis, but it can also be a fatigue trigger. Okay. Yes. Ailing from Ireland. Yes. I'm definitely emailing you guys all the video. And I realize that the reminders have gone to some people's spam. So I don't know how to work around that, but I will try. Yes, I'm definitely sharing the video of this later. So thank you. So also you have to get to know your own fatigue triggers. So for me now, fatigue is different than sleepiness. It is, sleepiness gets better if your tiredness gets better when you sleep, but fatigue doesn't necessarily get better when you sleep. That's kind of a easy and quick way to differentiate them. However, for me, if I'm already sleepy or I didn't sleep well, it definitely can trigger more fatigue. So making sure I really get enough sleep and I avoid too much exposure to sunlight and heat. For me, those are my triggers. Other people might be different, but they are documented as triggers for people with lupus and rheumatoid arthritis. So you might experience them. And then just overexertion, just overdoing it. And I'm sure a lot of us have just been there, right? Where you just used up all your quote unquote spoons too quickly. And if you haven't looked at the spoon theory already, that's a great metaphor for fatigue. And so you can also talk to your doctor's medical team about interventions. There's medical interventions for fatigue. I know people who've been given ADHD medicine for their rheumatoid arthritis fatigue because it's a stimulant and it helps with their fatigue. So again, that's a discussion between you and your doctor, but keep it in mind. So I keep having to scroll, sorry. So for medications and injections, I've already put a few of these out there. You can see I had a bob haircut, a shorter haircut, and I haven't gotten it cut since January because of the pandemic. So just gonna keep growing my hair out. But so the standard grasp when you're using a syringe is to use your thumb, and that again can be really hurtful for rheumatoid or osteoarthritis. So you can use your palm of your hand, like I'm showing here, in each case when you're filling the syringe and when you're injecting it. So for medication containers, there are some that have real easy open actions. So here's an example. It's easy to open and close for some people. For me, it is. But I also have, this just shows you how things have evolved. I have a 6-minute long video talking about all these different kinds of containers. That's not even all of them. But what's funny is, now it's everyone, that's too long of a video. I made that a year ago, and now everyone's I want 15 seconds. Show me in 15 seconds. And so that's been my little challenge, is figuring out how to make everything 15 seconds for TikTok and Instagram Reels. But yeah, so it's a good example of thinking about the objects that you have to use frequently and trying to make them as easy on your joints as possible. And you can actually put the cap upside down on some of your medications depending on the style of the medication, that container that comes from the pharmacy. So we're going to talk a few more things, and then we're going to wrap up. So special relationships, things like taking care of children. So a great aid for getting kids in and out of the car and babies is this thing called the Unbuckle Me. And you'll notice it's the same principle as the auto drop squeeze. You have a longer lever here, and then you have something that pushes down for you here onto the buckle. This was actually designed by an occupational therapist, and she got on Shark Tank, the really cool TV show. If you haven't watched it, it's a great one where people like pitch their different products and the sharks like choose to invest or not. So Charlie wanted to make sure I tell you, this is Charlie. He's 6 years old. He wanted to make sure I tell you that he doesn't need me to use this. He is strong enough to use it, but I was demonstrating it for this class. So this, again, it's called Unbuckle Me, and it's a great little gadget. Also, when babies are littler, using clothing with zippers instead of snaps. Snaps are potentially really hard on your thumbs. And there's also actually baby proofing and baby clothing that uses magnets, which is even easier than zippers. So keep that in mind. In terms of caring for pets, here's my little puppy. He's bigger now, but not much bigger. I personally use like a hands-free leash. That's easier for me on my hands. However, now some of you might have larger dogs and be like, I'm going to be like pulled over by my dog if I do that. So it doesn't work for everyone. But you can also train your dog, obviously, not to pull on the leash. That's like a good workaround. And then for food, dog food, if you get the larger containers, again, that principle of, distributing the force, you want to empty them into smaller containers. And this is not practical for a lot of people, but I wanted to share it because some people have thought it was hilarious and it is useful. My husband built a raised up cat litter container for us. And for me, really, I'm like, okay, you could have I asked you to do it yourself, but now you're, okay, now. Anyway, I'm like, thank you for doing this, but it was hilarious. It's basically a way for you to get the cat litter without having to bend down as much. And this is actually a hole in our wall into our laundry room, so I don't have to smell the litter and the litter doesn't get everywhere. So pretty cool. Another thing about special relationships is like intimacy and romantic relationships. So I have an over an hour long podcast all about this called Relationships, Intimacy, and Sex with Arthritis. It's number 10 on the Arthritis Life podcast. You can just look that up on any of your favorite podcast players, but we talk a lot about communication and like positioning strategies that can help decrease like the physical strain on your body, but also the social and like emotional aspects, right? Because intimacy is about more than just the physical. And also talking about timing your medications and scheduling ahead of time so that you can be in the best mental place when you are intimate. So that's something to address. And I just wanted to say that, occupational therapists are trained in helping people with this as well. So a lot of people are have a stigma against bringing it up. And if you're not comfortable talking about it, that's totally fine. But if you were wanting some support in that area, you could talk to an occupational therapist about that. Sleep, a lot of us get kind of obsessed with sleep, right? For rheumatoid arthritis or chronic illness, you're like, I just want to sleep. So, positioning yourself in a way where you can have for me, I need a lot of pillows to prop myself up so I'm comfortable. I use a body pillow so that my hips are in alignment and my knees don't like knock against each other. So that's something to consider. And then the habits around, like people call it nowadays, sleep hygiene. So things like keeping your bed for rest and sleep only, moving your electronics away from the bed, and then having like a wind down routine, using things like meditation apps, maybe calming music can help as well. My dog just got over here. That's okay. My son's going to come get him. And then here's another example of like a simple gadget that can help you. So when it comes to twisting off like a gas cap, that can be a really difficult thing. I've definitely sat there before and been like, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to actually do this? You can make your own larger lever arm by using something like this gas cap tool or just buy it. I haven't actually used it yet, but I ordered it. So this is kind of the exception to the thing earlier I said where I'm only recommending things that I use, but the principle is totally solid, which is, again, you're giving yourself that longer lever arm so that you don't have to apply as much force to the object. And then things like, hobbies and gardening, you can use a pad for kneeling comfort, and using wide-handled or long-handled tools can be super, super handy. So a few miscellaneous things in addition to those two. People liked this demonstration I gave of the key wing, which was actually designed by someone in London. And I think he signed up, so I don't know if he's here actually. And sorry for the background noise. That's my son trying to get the dog upstairs. Good job, Charlie. So this again gives you that lever, longer lever for the grip of the keys, which can be really, really difficult. And then you can actually get levers that go on twist knobs. I have that in my home and it's super helpful too. Then you don't have to grip and twist with your tiny hand joints. You could just push down on the lever. And then again, for knitting, the same principle from the pen. So getting a wide handle or built up handle for the needle, that can be really helpful for hobbies like knitting. And occupational therapists, we really focus on people's like meaningful activities and hobbies. So you might end up, you know, wanting to get an occupational therapy assessment and treatment to help you perform like your meaningful hobbies. That's what we're supposed to do. I don't know why it doesn't always happen. I think sometimes there might be like insurance barriers, but anyway, just so you know. Another thing that occupational therapists definitely traditionally do is do hand splints. And first of all, you could buy your own like off the shelf or over the counter gloves. I don't know if any of you guys already have like compression gloves for comfort, but I have a couple different kinds and they work for different days and different needs. So sometimes I just need like a little bit of compression. Sometimes I need compression plus support. But what's really interesting about compression, you might be thinking, wait a minute, why would I want something to like squeeze on my joints, like to compress them, because the joints are hurting and you would think that would hurt them more. Honestly, I was surprised the first time I tried compression gloves because it was like, I thought, why does this make any sense? I don't get it. But they were actually really comfortable. And I learned that one of the reasons is that pain and pressure are travel on the same nerve pathways. So if you add pressure, it can actually sometimes like interfere with the pain sensation. So your brain can't like process both of those at once very easily. So sometimes it's like, oh, I'm applying pressure and I don't feel as much pain. It kind of confuses the signal. It's actually a similar theory behind things like TENS units, if you've ever heard of them, like transcutaneous electronic stimulation. So that's an interesting thing. And you can also, you know, a lot of times, you know, you're left on your own, but you really can get more help again from like an occupational therapist, physical therapist, recreation therapist. They really, really focus on like your meaningful hobbies and activities, and social workers or even counseling and therapists. Oh, driving. That's really, hi, Lydia. Thank you for asking that. So what's funny is that I didn't want to add a lot of driving in here because it's such a safety issue. Like I think driving recommendations should really come from like a health provider who can like assess you and your fit individually with your individual car. But that said, in general, I'll let you know that there are things out there like called like steering knobs. So if, for example, some people are born with only one hand and they need a way to navigate use their steering wheel easier. And so you could get, again, I'm not recommending this, I'm just telling you it's out there, a knob to put on your steering wheel. And that way, let's say you have one hand that has a lot of more pain or deformity than the other, you can use your quote unquote good hand or your stronger hand and give your other hand a break. Same principle as like the one-handed typewriter. Oh my gosh, I'm showing my age here. Okay, I did use a typewriter in like elementary school, but yeah, one-handed keyboard. So, but again, a lot of these things kind of are like liability issues. Like I can't like recommend like a certain driving thing because, you know, I live in the US. People get sued for things all the time. So yeah, but just, you could look that up. Of course, any of these kind of comfort measures like a compression glove could help you basically feel less pain when driving, and then using like external supports. Like I actually have a back thing that I use when I'm driving because it just helps me not get like back and hip pain. So hopefully that helps a little bit. So as a recap, we're actually on time. Wow, I'm excited. I just talked really fast. So the main different ways of approaching this are to either change the stuff that you use, like driving knobs are illegal in my state unless you have a physician. Yeah, so exactly. So be careful and look at, I would just get an individual assessment from an occupational therapist or physical therapist, and make sure that everything that has to do with driving needs to be kind of above board. But So for joint protection, you can change, how you interact with objects you already have, or change what it is that you're using. So adding something to your object or buying like a new one, like in the case of the droppy, like eyedropper. And you can also use workarounds, planning ahead, delegating, simplifying your tasks, like spreading the force out throughout the day. So hopefully that all made sense. And a couple little, again, I always joke about all my soapboxes, but you might wonder, like, if you have arthritis, like why were you not already taught all of this earlier? Like, it just kind of seems like you should be taught right after your diagnosis, right? So interestingly, even just 5 years ago, the European League Against Rheumatism did a study and showed about patient education. And they found that people just, even in this information era, people with arthritis report that they don't understand their disease very well, and that they didn't feel they had received enough information, which is definitely what I've seen on social media and just in real life as well. So, I have to ask myself, where is like the orientation manual? So when you start a new job, you usually get like a new employee orientation. You get like a little workbook or a guide or a binder in the old days. And, rheumatoid arthritis, like having a chronic illness is like a job, but why is there no orientation for this job? This is literally what I asked myself when I formed Arthritis Life. So basically, skipping back for a second, this is why I formed Arthritis Life as a patient education company. Yeah, Nina's saying I had to find everything and figure it out. And that takes time and mental energy that you don't necessarily have as a patient, right? So you can what most people end up having to do, for lack of any choice, is figuring it out alone, which is kind of the slow, painful way. It's stressful, it's isolating, confusing, overwhelming, and it costs time, and time is money, right? Or you can tell I'm building up to something here. You can learn from like an expert supportive guide person like me, maybe, which is less stressful, more supportive. It's not as confusing, but it does cost time. It does cost money. So, oops, I went too far. So this is, again, why I formed my program, the Rheumatoid Arthritis Roadmap. And it's really just meant to be like an orientation manual for how arthritis affects your whole life and how you can cope with that, like step-by-step tools, really practical support. So again, that's me in my short hair. And, I had a little animation done or drawing done by someone on Fiverr trying to show like that what I see happening is people are like overwhelmed. They have like a million, tabs open on their browser, just trying to look up like, how do I do this? How do I do that? What can I do for pain? What can I do for fatigue? Or you can just have it all like in one handy place. So what is it? I keep talking about this roadmap. It's not like a physical map. It's actually an online course. It has these 8 main pillars or units talking about how to manage all aspects of rheumatoid arthritis. And it has over 300 pages of handouts. Or that's the self-study version. It's kind of like do it all at your own pace. Or there's the premium support, which is the self-study plus 8 weeks of group support calls where I answer questions and offer support. So click. Here is another kind of colorful way of looking at it. So it starts here. You go get the physical tools, the mental tools, the social tools, and what I call the CEO tools. So like how to organize things, how to track your symptoms, how to change your behavior, because it's not enough to know what to do, right? We all know like diet and exercise is the way to maintain your weight, but how do you actually do it? How do you change your behavior? That's covered here. And then at the end, hopefully you feel like this. A few of you have, I know Melissa, she's like a ringer here because she has already taken it. That is how people feel. So, this is another way of looking at it. We cover the basics. This is in order, rheumatoid arthritis basics, how to become the CEO of your care team, how to manage pain and fatigue, how to manage emotions and coping, and then your social life and relationships. And that's saying, yeah, so in the older days, the rheumatologist had a team to educate patients, OT, PT, orthotists, pharmacist, and social worker. That is how it should be. And so I honestly think it has to do, because I've done some research on this and I just joined like the American College of Rheumatology volunteer team to kind of help figure out behind the scenes, like why the system is how it is. like a lot of things, it comes down to money. I think it's expensive. You know, like if I work as an occupational therapist, your insurance gets charged $140 an hour. So they don't always want to pay for what's like called preventative care or patient education. It's not seen as a priority, which is so frustrating to me, because it's like, you're either going to pay for it up front or you're going to pay for it down the line, right? If you don't educate patients up front, then they make the mistakes that they could have prevented, and then that costs the medical system more money later. So they really shouldn't be so short-sighted. But as it is now, honestly, I created my own thing because I'm just really impatient, and I know that it's hard to choose to change systems. So I'm trying to figure out ways to like change the system from the back end as well. But in the meanwhile, I'm like, I'm just going to create online, you know, available to anyone, the solution that I think is the most like, you know, straightforward. So, oops, let's go to testimonials. So the whole idea is going from like lost and overwhelmed to empowered. And that's really what I've seen people say that they experience in the course, you know, figuring out how to live a fulfilling life, even with RA. There's Melissa. Oh, you're still here. I'm like, you already took this, and you're just like, thank you for staying on the call. And, you know, and it is helpful even if you have had rheumatoid arthritis for years. So it's not just for newbies, but it is designed for the beginners, but it's really helpful for anyone who has this diagnosis. So it is for you if you have rheumatoid arthritis or similar, you need help how to manage it, and you want to learn the practical everyday strategies. It's not for you if you want a course that is designed to heal or cure your arthritis. That is not my focus, but this course can definitely be taken in conjunction with other courses. I have had 2 people I know for sure that took like an Ayurvedic medicine one, and another one took like a nutrition course that was trying to like heal your gut and heal, you know, that's totally, you know, something that is available through like other means. But I just want to be really clear that this is not about healing or curing the condition. It's about managing it through the practical tools. So you're managing pain, managing fatigue, managing stress, and really from that top down level. And because I don't personally and professionally believe there is a guaranteed way to heal or cure arthritis, that's not what the current science says. But some people do find a lot of relief in like a diet or an alternative medicine way. But for me, it's like that may or may not work. So I want to teach what definitely will work. It definitely works to learn coping strategies. It definitely works to have support, right? Because those are just universal things that people need to cope with life in general, with chronic illness or not. And it definitely helps to do like a life hack. Like these are the guaranteed practical strategies. So, but it's also not for you if you don't want to commit time or energy or money into learning how to manage RA. Or if you believe that you're going to feel badly no matter what, you know, and that's a mental stage some people go through. They get really devastated, and that's totally, you know, your own, if that's where you are in your journey, that's where you are. But then if you're not open to learning, then it's not really going to help you. So you have to be open to thinking there are ways to have a better life with RA. Okay, so the price, you're probably like, okay, what does this actually cost me? So the self-study version that has the online course and the downloadable handouts of everything I teach, there's 26 videos. They're short, I promise. No, they're not all short. Some of them are like 15 minutes and some of them are like 6 minutes. And that's $197. And the premium support has the 8 hour long weekly phone calls. That is $397. But don't worry, I have a special offer. So it's a $50 coupon off for the self-study version if you use early bird, and $100 off the premium support if you use early bird support. So that expires tomorrow. So you kind of have to like decide now if you want the discount code. And I'm just going to put, okay, I'll put the link to it in the chat in a second. Sorry. So yeah, if you go to bit.ly, arthritis course, there we go. I can't spell arthritis sometimes. And, or the courses tab on myarthritislife.net, then you click on the link to the Thinkific course. And the registration overall is open through next Saturday, October 10th. So I know some people like to just like be able to actually talk to someone and ask their individual questions. Like, is this really for me? Is this going to be what I want? Or should I do like the support versus just the self-guided course? And I'm going to recommend like what's best for you. Like I recommended to somebody who just had a baby. I was like, if it's, and she was worried that it would be like really overwhelming to do the support group. And, so I wasn't like, no, give me more money and do the support group. I was like, yeah, it makes sense to just do the self-paced now. Cause it's like, you never know when your baby's going to be crying, or, you want to do what's working for your lifestyle right now. And if you decide later on that you want to join the support, you can do that at just by like in the future, like in 2021, you can join the support group and just pay that $200 difference. You don't have to like repurchase the whole thing again. So if you have any other questions, you can email me at info@myarthritislife.net, or you can join my free Facebook group, the podcast and support group. And this is where I am. I can't believe I'm ending on time. This is not like me. I love talking too long. So if there's any questions right now, I'm happy to answer them in the chat. But this is where you guys can find me. And yes, I will be emailing you guys a copy of this presentation recording. So anything else for now about life hacks or about the course? I'm supposed to say you can. You can find me. There we go. Okay, this is where I wanted to paste this into the chat. Oh, you're welcome so much. I have to take a breath now because I just like talked really fast. Here's the actual direct link to the course. Sorry, the other one wasn't working very well. But yeah, that's it for now. So I'm here to answer any questions for a few minutes. And otherwise, you're dismissed. Class dismissed. I'll wait here if you have any other questions. Yeah, thank you, Melissa, for your feedback. And every time I get feedback from people who take the course, I change it a little bit and make it better for the next time. And in fact, that's why it's 8 weeks now. It used to be 4 weeks, and it was so crammed. It was so packed. Like and it wasn't enough time like mentally for people to like get to know each other. And it just felt like we were just starting to groove at 4 weeks, and we're like, okay, bye. So now we're doing it as an 8 week. Oh my gosh, Peely, you got diagnosed 3 months ago. Yeah, and thank you, Nina. You're so nice. And thank you, Nina, for doing the dance challenge with me. That was so fun. Thank you, Avery. Yeah, I mean, this is why I designed it. I really designed this. This is like my dream project, is like giving people the thing that I wish I had gotten. It's so basic, but and you can get it through like official, therapies. Some therapists can lead you through some of this stuff, but there is something nice about like having it as an online format, so that, oh my gosh, 3 weeks ago, Avery, oh my gosh, sorry. I get really excited when I meet newly diagnosed patients, because it's like, this is like the best time for you to like learn about the disease and learn how to manage it. And it's also the most overwhelming time, though. That's kind of the paradox. Like, I love teaching newly diagnosed patients, but it's also like, you're already the most overwhelmed. So someone like me who's like, I'm going to give you 5,000 points. Like, I have to really like rein myself in and be like, one at a time, just focus on one thing at a time. So we just focus on physical symptoms for a little bit. Then we just focus on fatigue, and we just focus on mental coping, so I tried to like slow myself down, because I just want to like tell you everything. But yeah, follow up with me if you have any questions about the program or anything else. I'm always looking for people's ideas for my like videos, because I want the videos to really address what you all are having a hard time with. So, if you're like, oh, I'm just really struggling with XYZ, can you make a video on that? I like to do that. Oh, I'm missing a question. Let me see. You enjoyed this and found this helpful? Oh yes, anonymous. Yeah, and if you're, I knew there must be like an occupational therapist in here. So, yeah, if you're an OT just trying to learn about, how to better serve this population. Yeah, the term in occupational therapy and healthcare is like self-management. These skills are under the umbrella of self-management, which is how a person with chronic illness manages their disease and their symptoms on a daily basis.